Just imagine this for a second. You're a millionaire, driving to work like any other day, and you see something that stops you in your tracks. It's your own housekeeper, and she's sleeping on cardboard boxes on the street with her two tiny children. What he does next is one thing, but what he finds out later, that's the real story.
See, this isn't just about a simple act of kindness. Oh no. This is a story of betrayal, of a struggle that most of us can't even imagine, and about a mother who just flat out refused to break, even when the world was giving her every single reason to shatter into a million pieces. So, before we get into it, if these are the kinds of powerful stories that really get to you, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It honestly helps get this story out to more people who need to hear it.
And I'm curious, let us know down in the comments, what would you do if you were in his shoes? Okay, let's dive into what happened. Our story kicks off on a really cold, gray Chicago morning, the kind that just bites at your skin. The clock on the dashboard read exactly 5:47 a.m. when a man named Richard Hayes slammed the brakes on his Mercedes. And right there, in that one single moment, his entire predictable, comfortable routine was just gone. Blown apart by what he saw, huddled up against this damp, cold brick wall, was a woman. She was fast asleep on a makeshift bed of flattened cardboard, anything to get away from the biting chill of the concrete. But, she wasn't alone, because curled up, right beside her, practically on top of her, was her family. There was this little girl, maybe 4 years old, and her tiny fingers were just balled up into a fist, clutching her mother's shirt, even in her sleep. And nestled right in her mother's arms was a baby boy. Couldn't have been more than a year old, wrapped in this thin, tattered blanket that looked like it couldn't stop a breeze. Richard just sat there in his car, frozen, watching the gentle rise and fall of their breathing. And he couldn't help but notice how, even completely unconscious, the mother's body was curved around her children, protecting them. It was like a shield, a shield forged from pure bone-deep exhaustion and just absolute love. But as he stared, his chest tightening, his eyes caught a little detail, a detail that made the blood literally drain from his face. He zoomed in on her shirt. It was a simple, light blue uniform, but right there on the collar was a small, embroidered logo, and it was a logo he knew all too well. It was the uniform worn by Maria Santos, his housekeeper, the woman who, for the last year and a half, had been this quiet shadow in his life, the one who came in early, left without a sound, and just made his entire world perfect and clean. And that contrast just hit him like a punch to the gut. For the very first time, he was really seeing her, not as the person who cleans his house, but as a mother who was forced to sleep on cold concrete, while making sure his own home, his own bed remained sparkling and perfect every single day. So Richard gets out of the car. The cold morning air hits him, and as he walks over and stands there, Maria's eyes start to flutter open. And you could just see this wave of emotions wash over her face in a split second. First, it was just sleepy confusion, but that was immediately followed by the shock of recognition, and then this deep, crushing wave of shame that just seemed to make her whole body collapse in on itself. She scrambled to sit up, pulling her children even closer as if to hide them. Her hands were shaking as she tried to smooth out her wrinkled uniform, just this desperate, heartbreaking attempt to hold on to some tiny shred of dignity. "Mr. Hayes," she whispered, and her voice just cracked. I can explain." But Richard, he cut her off. His voice was firm, but it was gentle. "The real trouble," he said, looking right at her and her two terrified little kids, "would be if I just drove away right now." He opened the back door of his Mercedes. Maria hesitated. She's looking at the pristine leather seats, mumbling something about the children being dirty. But then Richard said something that just broke right through her fear. He didn't command her. He pleaded with her. "Maria," he said, "please get in the car." And that one word, please, it just shattered the wall between employer and employee. It made them two people. And as they drove away, the silence in that car was just deafening, filled with all the questions that neither of them knew how to ask. Richard cranked the heat up all the way. And as that warm air filled the car, for the first time in what felt like forever, Maria felt a genuine, true warmth seep deep into her bones. It was such a shocking contrast to the overcrowded, cold shelters and the even colder city streets. Richard glanced at them in the rearview mirror. He saw the little girl, Sophia, just staring out the window, and the baby, Lucas, was finally quiet in his mother's arms. He asked a really simple question. Are you hungry?
But before Maria could even think of an answer, little Sophia's spoke up. Her voice was so small, but it was crystal clear. Yes, she said. Mama said there would be food today. She promised.
Maria just closed her eyes, and you could feel this fresh wave of shame just wash over her. Because, yeah, she had promised. She had made that exact same promise yesterday and the day before that. For 3 days straight, a promise was the only thing she could give her children. It was a shield made of hope. And that's where we're going to leave this part of the story, with a thought that is both heartbreaking and just so profoundly true. Sometimes a mother's promise isn't a statement of fact. It's an act of pure love, designed to make her children feel safe in a world that is anything but. The question now is, what was the truth hiding in Richard's own home that was about to make his blood boil?